Attorney General William Barr has faced growing criticism for the manipulation and destruction of longstanding norms around the conduct of the Department of Justice. Since last week, almost 3,000 alumni of the Justice Department signed an open letter calling for the Attorney General to resign. Today, a new voice got added into the mix, and it's not just any former justice official. His name is Stuart Gerson. He served as an assistant attorney general for the Civil Division of the Department of Justice under President George H.W. Bush and as the acting attorney general for President Bill Clinton. He had a long and storied career at the Justice Department, including working alongside the current attorney general, William Barr. Today, Gerson published a letter painstakingly laying out how the rule of law used to be upheld in the Department of Justice and what is happening now with the attorney general. Quote, in sum, many citizens, both inside and outside the Department of Justice, are asking whether the Department of Justice stands for the rule of law or for the rule of an authoritarian administration. Adherence to the law and the department's traditions demands it clearly be the former. There is no room for error or even the perception of it being otherwise. Mr. Stuart Gerson is here with me now. It was a really striking thing that you wrote, particularly based on your long experience. And I want to start with the first thing you wrote, which is an experience as a young line prosecutor with a U.S. senator in a case you had, and essentially your higher-ups insulating you from political pressure. What was that experience like, and what do you want to demonstrate in that story about the kind of model that there should be at the DOJ to wall off political pressure?
Well, that was an event that influenced me in my entire career, both as an assistant United States attorney and then later when I was in a management position and ultimately for a period of time was acting Attorney General of the United States. That very courageous head of the criminal division, Henry Peterson, after whom an award is named, one of the highest honors that the Justice Department has, looked one of the most famous lawyers in the country in the eye and said, the assistant U.S. attorney told me that we have a viable case. We're not going to give way. Thank you and good afternoon. What that told me and what I have tried to communicate ever since is that justice will be dispensed by the Department of Justice without fear or favor, consistent with the oath that everybody takes to make sure that the laws are carried out as they're written, and that they be applied equally with respect to race, class, economic status. In other words, no favoritism. And that's important in terms, not just in cosmetic terms, but as I point out in the article that you referenced, that has to do with what we call the durability of the law. So people know what it is. They know it's going to apply equally. And not only do they conform their conduct to it, but they respect it. And I think we are entering into a situation where people will have less respect for the law, less respect for the people who enforce it, if it's enforced with favoritism and unequally.
How, as someone who knows this institution so well, how alarmed are you? How much has been changed, do you think, under the administration of Mr. Barr?
Well, I'm very concerned about it. Now, I have a lot of respect in many ways for Bill Barr. Let's put him aside for just a second. I mean, he's threatened to resign if he can't do his job. He clearly has a management problem. There is a great deal of dissension within the department, within the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. I've gotten feedback all day today on that subject from insiders. But the real problem starts at the top. And where we have a president who is in this conducting this tweet storm, criticizing cases that are being brought against corrupt officials, criticizing the prosecutors and even the trial judge, we have a situation that's out of hand. There is a president who is not satisfying the constitutional requirement that he take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And I'm most concerned about that. And clearly it's going to have an effect. The president has a lot of supporters who place a great deal of confidence in him. A lot of that has to do with the future of work, their concerns about the economy, but it translates into other issues. But we've got to start paying attention as a larger society about how our institutions are being weakened. And we've got to get a much greater sense of control of that.
There was a really remarkable scene that happened today to illustrate your point. Roger Stone, of course, one of the president's associates, convicted by a jury of his peers. There was a sentencing recommendation from the Department of Justice frontline prosecutors that was essentially overruled by the hand-picked henchmen of William Barr. It resulted in the resignation from the case of 4 of those line prosecutors. Today, there was a hearing for Stone, who wants a new trial because he says the jury pool was essentially tainted by bias. And as that hearing was happening, the President of the United States was tweeting about it, targeting the civilian foreperson of the jury and the judge. There has rarely been a juror so tainted as the forewoman in the Roger Stone case. Look at her background. She never revealed her hatred of Trump and Stone. She was totally biased, as is the judge. Roger wasn't even working on my campaign, which is not really true. Miscarriage of justice, sad to watch. I mean, what is your reaction to the president targeting these people during an actual hearing?
Well, that's 2 in a row, because he targeted the judge during the sentencing of Roger Stone last week. So it's just the sort of thing I'm talking about. A president should keep his hands off of that and let the other branch do its job. If Roger Stone believes that he's been maltreated, if his attorneys think there's legal error, the D.C. Circuit can look over that case and rule accordingly. But it's not for the president to intervene in the middle of a procedure that is assigned to another branch. It's not terribly different. You know, I'm counsel in the successful border wall case. It's not really different in kind from the president's reaching into congressional power to try to reappropriate monies that the Congress has denied him. He believes that there's only one branch of government, that the unitary executive somehow puts him above the other branches. The Attorney General, unfortunately, erroneously, both historically and constitutionally, has supported that argument. But it's one that can't hold. We need our checks and balances. They need to be restored.
Stuart, Gerson, thank you. That was extremely illuminating. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next 7 days could decide